The council chamber of Valen Prime was never silent until the human walked in. Captain Rian Hale stood straight in his dark combat suit, one gloved hand resting casually on the head of his dog. The creature beside him was massive, built like muscle wrapped in fur and quiet menace. Its amber eyes scanned the aliens around it without a hint of fear. Hundreds of alien delegates whispered behind glass shields. Their translator nodes crackled with the same words: beast, predator, dangerous. Ryan didn't react. He just gave a slow smile and scratched behind his dog's ear. "Easy, boy," he said softly. The dog's ears twitched, tail still, posture alert but calm. The way it looked at the alien generals made them instinctively step back. The Galactic Council had summoned Rian after an incident on the frontier world of North 7. Reports said a Terran animal had single-handedly destroyed an entire raider platoon. The aliens thought it was a weapon. They were wrong. The council leader, a tall insectoid named Vorkesh, leaned forward. "Captain Hale," it hissed, "your creature is a biological hazard. Its strength and aggression violate the interspecies accords. It cannot be allowed to exist within populated systems." Ryan looked up slowly, eyes cold but calm. "He's not a creature," he said. "He's my partner." The dog sat beside him, quiet as stone. The silence stretched so long that even the chamber lights dimmed slightly in their rhythm cycle. Vorkesh tapped the console, and a hologram appeared, footage from North 7. It showed chaos, alien raiders charging through dust storms, plasma bolts tearing through the ground. Then came the dog, moving fast, silent, brutal. It tore through the raiders with terrifying efficiency, saving trapped colonists, dragging wounded soldiers to cover. The aliens in the room recoiled at the sight. To them it was a monster. To Ryan it was loyalty in motion. When the video ended, Vorkesh spoke again. "You call this partnership?" "It kills without hesitation." Ryan's jaw tightened. "It kills when someone shoots at me," he replied. "You'd do the same for your own." The dog lifted its head, golden eyes glowing faintly in the chamber's cold light. Even the armored guards near the wall gripped their weapons tighter. Another counselor, a smaller reptilian with dark scales, spoke nervously. "Terran species were supposed to be regulated. No companion animal should be capable of such violence." Ryan shrugged slightly. "Maybe you shouldn't start wars near human colonies." Gasps filled the room. The translator nodes buzzed with disapproval. The human didn't care. He crouched beside his dog, pressing his forehead lightly against the animal's. The dog gave a low rumble, not a growl, more like a sound of comfort. The entire council stared as the human whispered, "Good boy," the words carried across the chamber, strange and soft among the cold mechanical echoes of alien tongues. For a brief second, everything stopped. Even Vorkesh hesitated. The archives would later record that as the exact moment fear turned into confusion. None of the species there could understand how a human could look at something so dangerous and see love instead of threat. But the galaxy was changing fast. War was already building along the outer systems. Pirate factions, rogue species, and scavenger fleets were testing human borders. The Council hoped to use Earth's soldiers as controlled allies, but humans were never good at being controlled. Rian had already seen the signs. He'd seen colony attacks ignored, trade routes blocked, and refugees left adrift in space. He'd been patient, but the patience of humanity was never infinite. He left the chamber after the hearing, the dog walking beside him, claws clicking softly on the metal floor. The aliens parted automatically, giving them a wide path. Some tried not to meet the dog's eyes. Others whispered warnings to each other about the Terran Beast. Outside, Ryan stopped at the edge of the docking platform. Beyond the glass, the stars shimmered like cold fire. His ship waited, a small scout vessel armed with more spirit than firepower. The dog sat beside him looking out too. "They don't get it," Rian said quietly. "They see a weapon. I see my best friend." The dog leaned gently against his leg, silent but steady. In that single motion, there was more meaning than any speech given in the council. Far above them, alarms began to echo. The holographic sky of Valen Prime shimmered red. Ships were breaking through the outer defense lines, unknown, fast, and hostile. The council had no idea what was coming. Rian turned his head slightly, eyes narrowing. The dog was already tense, ears forward, reading his body before he even spoke. "Looks like trouble." "Boy," he said. The dog gave a quiet sound, half growl, half breath. The first explosion hit moments later, and the council's shields flared bright. The aliens panicked, shouting into comms, but the human was already moving. His hand brushed his dog's fur once before they ran together down the corridor, one soldier and one beast, ready for a fight the galaxy would never forget. The alarms kept screaming. Red lights flashed through the corridors of Valen Prime. The Galactic Council, the most powerful collection of alien species in the known galaxy, was in chaos. Captain Ryan Hale didn't stop to argue or wait for orders. He grabbed his rifle from the wall rack, slapped a power cell in, and looked down at his dog. "Stay close, boy." The dog barked once, a sharp sound that echoed off the metal walls, then trotted beside him with perfect precision. The two moved like a single unit. One thought, two bodies. Alien guards ran past them, shouting in panic. Ships outside the station were burning, fragments spinning in the black void. Through the glass corridor walls, Rian could see explosions rippling across the docking rings. An alien soldier, scales flickering green under the emergency lights, tried to stop him. "Human, you cannot go out there. It's not your battle." Ryan didn't even slow down. "You're wrong," he said. "It's everyone's." They reached the outer hangar just as the first enemy boarding craft punched through the docking bay doors. The hull screamed under the pressure. Metal twisted, sparks sprayed, and smoke filled the air. Then came the intruders, heavily armored raiders, their armor scorched black and their weapons glowing red. "No insignia. No mercy." The aliens guarding the bay froze for half a second. That's all it took. The raiders cut them down in a flash of plasma fire. Ryan ducked behind a fallen console, pulled his dog close and whispered, "You know what to do." The dog didn't hesitate. It leapt through the smoke, low and fast, eyes burning gold in the chaos. The raiders barely saw it before it was on them. One screamed as it tore his weapon arm clean off. Another tried to aim, but the dog was already behind him, snapping his throat with a wet crack. Ryan moved in right behind, rifle steady, firing in perfect rhythm with the creature's movements. The two of them fought like they'd practiced this 1,000 times, which they had. The bay was filled with smoke, fire, and shouts in alien languages. But through it all, the only constant sound was the human's calm voice. "Good boy!" Another shot fired. "Good boy!" Another enemy fell. The raiders began to pull back, realizing too late that this wasn't some wild animal. This was discipline wrapped in fury. By the time the bay was secured, the alien defenders who survived could only stare. The massive dog stood still among the wreckage, chest heaving, fur singed with plasma burns, but eyes alert, ready for more. Rian knelt beside him, checking for wounds. "You're fine," he said softly. "Tough as ever." One alien officer, trembling, stepped forward. "That thing," he whispered. "It fights better than a squad of soldiers." Ryan stood. "He's not a thing. His name's Rex," but the officer's words spread fast. In less than an hour, the story of the Galactic Beast, who had saved Valen Prime, reached every corridor. Rumors twisted it. Some said it was a genetically engineered monster, others said it could smell fear, or that its roar could shatter glass. The council chambers were in disarray, trying to regain control. Yet even the alien generals who had mocked Ryan earlier couldn't deny what they'd seen on the battlefeeds. When Ryan finally returned to the council hall, armor scorched and dog beside him, the entire room went silent again. For Kesh, the insectoid leader, stood frozen, his mandibles twitching. "That creature just destroyed 2 boarding squads," he said quietly. "No human technology could have done this," Ryan shook his head. "You're right. It wasn't technology. It was trust." The dog sat beside him, tail slowly thumping against the floor. For once, no one called it a monster. They just looked and saw something beyond their understanding. Outside, the war wasn't over. Dozens of raider fleets were still advancing on human space. The Council didn't know it yet, but this battle was only the start. As Ryan walked toward the exit, He glanced down at Rex and said in a low voice, "They still don't get it, do they?" Rex gave a small sound, half snort, half breath, as if answering. Rian smiled faintly. "Let's show them what a good boy can really do." The flames outside Valen Prime's orbit burned for 2 days straight. What was supposed to be a quick raid had turned into something far worse, a coordinated attack on every communication relay near human territory. Someone wanted to cut Earth off from the galaxy. Inside the command hall, the Galactic Council sat in panic. Generals argued. Ambassadors shouted. Every alien leader wanted someone else to take responsibility. Only one man stayed quiet. Captain Rian Hale. He stood near the observation window, staring into the storm of wreckage. His dog sat beside him, silent and steady, like a soldier who didn't need medals to prove his worth. "They're not stopping," Ryan said finally. "They're testing us." Vorkesh, the Insectoid Council leader, turned his compound eyes toward him. "Us? You mean humanity?" Ryan looked over his shoulder. "No," he said. "I mean all of us. They'll come for you too when they're done with us." The council chamber fell quiet again. The aliens weren't used to hearing that kind of certainty in a human's voice. Then came the broadcast, an emergency message flickering across the hollow screens. A border colony called Aris 9 was under attack. The raiders had orbital support, heavy cannons, and hostages. The council debated evacuations, legal protocols, and fleet permissions. Ryan was already walking out the door. "Captain Hale!" shouted one of the council guards. "You don't have authorization." Ryan didn't stop. "I don't need permission to save my people." The next hour was chaos. Valen Prime's hangar crew barely had time to refuel his small corvette before he launched. The engines roared, shaking the docks. As the ship rose, a blur of brown and muscle leapt into the cockpit beside him. Rex, ready as always. "Good boy," Ryan said, patting his shoulder as stars streaked past. "Let's go earn some new friends." Aris 9 was burning when they arrived. The sky was a dirty orange, clouds of fire rolling over the colony domes. Refugee ships tried to escape but were being shot down by enemy interceptors. Ryan didn't wait for backup. He dropped straight into the atmosphere, engines screaming. The Corvette hit the surface hard, skidding through dirt and flame. Before the dust settled, the ramp opened and Ryan stepped out with Rex by his side. The colonists were pinned down behind broken vehicles. The raiders were closing in fast, armored and laughing. Their leader, a massive alien with tusks of metal, turned when he saw the human. "So," the raider snarled, "they sent one man and his pet?" Ryan adjusted his helmet, rifle resting across his arm. "That's all they need," the dog growled softly, low and dangerous. The sound carried through the smoke like thunder. Then the fight began. Ryan moved through the battlefield with precise fury. Every shot counted. Every command to Rex was sharp and simple. Left, down, guard, hold. The dog obeyed each word instantly, slipping through fire and wreckage like it was born there. It wasn't just fighting, it was protecting. Rex dragged wounded colonists to safety, stood between children and gunfire, and ripped apart anything that tried to harm them. The colonists, who had been screaming moments ago, now watched in stunned silence. They saw the creature they'd been told was a galactic beast, shielding them with its own body. By the time reinforcements arrived, the raiders were retreating. The human and his dog stood at the center of the smoking battlefield. Rex's fur was burned in places, but his head was high, tail still, breathing steady. Ryan crouched beside him, voice quiet but proud. "You did it again, boy." The dog nudged his arm, licking blood and soot off his glove. Above them, one of the colonists recorded the scene. That footage would go viral across the galactic network within a day. It showed not a monster but a protector, not a weapon but a friend. By the time Ryan and Rex returned to Valen Prime, the rumors had changed. The aliens no longer called it the Galactic Beast. They had started calling it something else, the good boy of Earth. The council chambers that once looked at Ryan with suspicion now opened their doors when he entered. Even Vorkesh bowed his head slightly. "Your companion," the alien said carefully, "has done what fleets could not." Ryan looked down at Rex and smiled. Yeah, he has that effect. For the first time, the galaxy started to understand something simple. Humans didn't rule by fear. They ruled by loyalty, and loyalty, once earned, could shake the stars. Weeks passed, but the story didn't fade. The footage from Eris 9 spread like wildfire through the galactic networks. Billions watched in disbelief as the Terran Beast saved children and stood guard over alien civilians. No amount of propaganda could erase what everyone saw: a dog bleeding and burned, still refusing to abandon its duty. Alien journalists started calling it the Protector of Eris 9. Soldiers in the frontier fleets whispered another name: the Good Boy of Earth. And the humans? They just smiled and said, "That's Rex." Inside the Galactic Council, things had shifted. The same aliens who once feared Ryan Hale now treated him as a representative of something much larger: human loyalty, courage, and unpredictability. They couldn't understand how one man and one animal could change morale across half the galaxy. But it was happening. Rian sat quietly in the hangar bay, cleaning his rifle. Rex lay beside him, tail thumping lazily against the metal floor. The lights overhead buzzed softly, echoing through the long corridor. "Seems you're famous now," Ryan said, glancing at the dog. "Galactic hero, huh?" Rex yawned, unconcerned with his fame. To him, the medals and praise didn't matter. His world was simple: protect, obey, and stay beside his human. But outside that hangar, war was spreading. The Raider fleets weren't random anymore. Someone or something was organizing them. Whole star systems were falling silent. A communication officer burst into the bay, panting. "Captain Hale, you're being summoned by the Council again. Urgent session." Ryan sighed, put his rifle down, and gave Rex a quick pat. "Duty calls, buddy." When they entered the council chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. Dozens of alien leaders hovered around a holographic map of the galaxy, the edges pulsing red where battles were breaking out. Vorkesh looked at him with a rare expression, something close to respect. "Captain Hale, we need your help." That was a sentence no alien had ever said to a human before. Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You mean you need our help?" He pointed to Rex. "He doesn't work for free, you know." A faint ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the room. Even Vorkesh's mandibles twitched. Then the map zoomed in, showing the world of Erebos, a dark frontier planet now under siege. It was one of the Council's own colonies, home to multiple alien races. Civilians trapped. No evacuation possible. "The enemy leader calls himself the Harbinger," said a Council officer. "He's uniting the pirate clans. If Erebos falls, the rest of the border will follow." Ryan studied the projection silently. His expression hardened. "Then we don't let it fall." Vorkesh tilted his head. "You plan to go alone again?" Ryan's voice was calm. "Not alone." He looked down at Rex. The dog's ears perked up, already sensing what was coming. The journey to Erebos was brutal. The skies burned red with plasma storms, and the planet's surface was a wasteland of ash and shadow. The enemy fleets had surrounded the main city, cutting off all signals. When Ryan's ship broke through the clouds, enemy fighters immediately turned toward him. He flipped a switch. The Corvette dived hard, hugging the canyon walls, explosions chasing them down. "Hang on, boy," he shouted. The ship crashed into a barren stretch outside the city. Fire burst from the engines, smoke rising. Ryan kicked the hatch open, stepping into a world that smelled of metal and blood. They could hear the screams of civilians in the distance, the roar of enemy tanks, the thud of heavy boots. Rex growled softly, fur bristling. His instincts were already awake. Ryan reloaded his rifle. "All right, boy," he said with quiet focus. "This time we show them what family means." The dog looked up at him, eyes shining gold in the flickering firelight. For a second, man and beast just stood there, two shapes against the ruins of a dying world. Then they moved. Through the wreckage, through the smoke, through the chaos. The man who the galaxy once called reckless and his dog, the Galactic Beast, now marched into battle not for glory, but for those who couldn't fight for themselves. And somewhere deep in the command ship above, the Harbinger, the mysterious enemy leader, watched the incoming transmission. He saw the human and his dog tearing through his troops with impossible precision. He turned to his second-in-command. "That," he said slowly, "is no animal. That's death on 4 legs, but Rian wasn't death. He was something far more dangerous. He was human, and beside him was the reason the galaxy would never understand them." By nightfall, the people of Erebos had a new story to tell. They didn't say the humans came with ships or armies. They said a man and his dog walked through fire and made the darkness run. The city of Erebos burned like a dying star. Buildings collapsed in waves of fire. The sky glowed red with plasma storms, and the air was filled with the cries of soldiers and civilians. Captain Ryan Hale moved through the chaos with grim focus, every step measured, every shot precise. Rex followed close behind, his fur matted with ash and blood. Together they looked less like soldier and animal, and more like one unstoppable force. The enemy was everywhere. Raiders poured through the streets in black armor, shouting in languages unknown. Ryan's rifle clicked dry, and he switched to his sidearm, his movements automatic. He didn't need to look to know where Rex was. The dog's low growl told him everything. They reached the central plaza, what was left of it. Dozens of civilians were trapped inside, surrounded by raiders. A massive gunship hovered overhead, firing bursts into the ground to keep everyone pinned down. Ryan ducked behind a broken pillar. "We can't take that thing head on," he muttered. Rex looked up at him, eyes locked. "No fear, no hesitation. Just understanding, all right," Ryan said softly. "Go wide, draw their fire. I'll cover." The dog didn't wait for another command. He bolted across the rubble, fast as lightning. The raiders opened fire immediately, red plasma bolts streaking through the smoke. Ryan took advantage of the distraction, moving through the shadows, one shot at a time. Each pull of the trigger dropped another enemy. He climbed onto a shattered platform and aimed at the gunship's exposed vent. Come on," he whispered. Below, Rex crashed into a group of raiders, scattering them like sand. One grabbed him by the throat. Bad move. The dog twisted, ripped the alien's arm clean off, and charged another. The gunship turned its cannons toward him. Ryan's heart froze. He saw the plasma cannon light up. "Rex, down!" he shouted. The dog looked up, just once, and then the world exploded in white fire. The blast threw Ryan off his feet. He hit the ground hard, ears ringing, vision full of static. He could taste blood in his mouth. "Rex!" he yelled, voice raw. Through the smoke, he saw the dog still standing. Barely. Burned, bleeding, but standing. The creature that the galaxy had called a beast was now limping toward him, one paw dragging. Ryan crawled to him, pulled him into his arms. "You stubborn idiot," he whispered, voice shaking. "You did it, didn't you?" The dog's chest rose and fell, each breath slower than the last. Its golden eyes met his. In those eyes, Ryan didn't see pain. He saw loyalty, pure, silent, eternal. He pressed his forehead against Rex's and whispered, "Good boy." "You're my good boy." The dog let out one final breath. Then stillness. For a long moment, Rian didn't move. The battlefield around him vanished from his mind. The noise faded. The fire, the screams, all gone. Only the quiet weight in his arms remained. But grief wasn't the end. He laid Rex gently on the ground and stood up slowly. His armor was cracked, his weapon nearly out of power, but his eyes burned like the stars above. The raiders were regrouping. The Harbinger's voice echoed from the gunship overhead. "See, human? Even your beast bleeds." Ryan looked up at the hovering ship, his face unreadable. "Yeah," he said softly. "But he died doing what none of you ever could." He raised his rifle one last time, aimed at the exposed vent of the gunship, and fired. The shot hit dead center. The ship erupted in flame, crashing into the ruins in a storm of metal and fire. The explosion tore through the plaza. The raiders broke ranks, fleeing in panic. When the smoke cleared, Ryan stood alone. He turned back once, looking at the still form of his dog. "Rest now, buddy," he said quietly. "I'll finish it." Above the burning city, the galactic cameras caught everything. That footage would travel farther than any fleet ever had. Billions would see a human holding his fallen companion and understand for the first time what made humanity dangerous wasn't their weapons. It was their heart. And in the ruins of Erebos, the legend of the good boy of Earth was sealed forever. The city of Erebos burned like a dying star. Buildings collapsed in waves of fire. The sky glowed red with plasma storms, and the air was filled with the cries of soldiers and civilians. Captain Ryan Hale moved through the chaos with grim focus, every step measured, every shot precise. Rex followed close behind, his fur matted with ash and blood. Together they looked less like soldier and animal, and more like one unstoppable force. The enemy was everywhere. Raiders poured through the streets in black armor, shouting in languages unknown. Ryan's rifle clicked dry, and he switched to his sidearm, his movements automatic. He didn't need to look to know where Rex was. The dog's low growl told him everything. They reached the central plaza, what was left of it. Dozens of civilians were trapped inside, surrounded by raiders. A massive gunship hovered overhead, firing bursts into the ground to keep everyone pinned down. Ryan ducked behind a broken pillar. "We can't take that thing head on," he muttered. Rex looked up at him, eyes locked. "No fear, no hesitation, just understanding." "All right," Ryan said softly. "Go wide, draw their fire." "I'll cover." The dog didn't wait for another command. He bolted across the rubble, fast as lightning. The raiders opened fire immediately, red plasma bolts streaking through the smoke. Ryan took advantage of the distraction, moving through the shadows, one shot at a time. Each pull of the trigger dropped another enemy. He climbed onto a shattered platform and aimed at the gunship's exposed vent. Come on," he whispered. Below, Rex crashed into a group of raiders, scattering them like sand. One grabbed him by the throat. Bad move. The dog twisted, ripped the alien's arm clean off, and charged another. The gunship turned its cannons toward him. Ryan's heart froze. He saw the plasma cannon light up. "Rex, down!" he shouted. The dog looked up just once, and then the world exploded in white fire. The blast threw Ryan off his feet. He hit the ground hard, ears ringing, vision full of static. He could taste blood in his mouth. "Rex!" he yelled, voice raw. Through the smoke, he saw the dog still standing, barely, burned, bleeding, but standing. The creature that the galaxy had called a beast was now limping toward him, one paw dragging. Ryan crawled to him, pulled him into his arms. "You stubborn idiot," he whispered, voice shaking. "You did it, didn't you?" The dog's chest rose and fell, each breath slower than the last. Its golden eyes met his. In those eyes, Ryan didn't see pain. He saw loyalty, pure, silent, eternal. He pressed his forehead against Rex's and whispered, "Good boy." "You're my good boy." The dog let out one final breath. Then stillness. For a long moment, Ryan didn't move. The battlefield around him vanished from his mind. The noise faded. The fire, the screams, all gone. Only the quiet weight in his arms remained. But grief wasn't the end. He laid Rex gently on the ground and stood up slowly. His armor was cracked, his weapon nearly out of power, but his eyes burned like the stars above. The raiders were regrouping. The Harbinger's voice echoed from the gunship overhead. "See, human? Even your beast bleeds." Ryan looked up at the hovering ship, his face unreadable. "Yeah," he said softly. "But he died doing what none of you ever could." He raised his rifle one last time, aimed at the exposed vent of the gunship, and fired. The shot hit dead center. The ship erupted in flame, crashing into the ruins in a storm of metal and fire. The explosion tore through the plaza. The raiders broke ranks, fleeing in panic. When the smoke cleared, Ryan stood alone. He turned back once, looking at the still form of his dog. "Rest now, buddy," he said quietly. "I'll finish it." Above the burning city, the galactic cameras caught everything. That footage would travel farther than any fleet ever had. Billions would see a human holding his fallen companion and understand, for the first time, what made humanity dangerous wasn't their weapons. It was their heart, and in the ruins of Erebos, the legend of the good boy of Earth was sealed forever. Dawn never came to Erebos. The sky stayed gray with ash and smoke. The battle was over, but the silence afterward felt heavier than war itself. Captain Ryan Hale stood alone on the shattered plaza, armor scorched, eyes hollow. Around him, the wreckage of the gunship still burned. The city was saved. The people were alive, but the one who had saved them first lay still at his feet. Rex's body was covered with Ryan's jacket. The human crouched beside him, silent, hand resting on the dog's head. Every few seconds, the wind carried the faint scent of burned metal and rain. Alien soldiers gathered nearby, unsure what to say. For the first time, they didn't see a beast. They saw a soldier, a small alien child, one of the refugees Rex had shielded, walked forward and placed a single metal flower beside the dog. Her voice trembled. "He was brave," she whispered. Ryan managed a small nod. Braver than most armies, a council transport descended from the clouds soon after. Vorkesh himself stepped out, accompanied by several generals. None of them spoke at first. The insectoid bowed its head slightly, the gesture awkward but sincere. "Captain Hale," it said, "the council owes you a debt. You and your companion saved a world." Ryan looked up slowly. "Then remember him, not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as what he was, a good boy." Vorkesh's mandibles clicked softly. "The galaxy will remember." Weeks later, across hundreds of worlds, the story spread. Murals appeared on colony walls, paintings of a human and his dog standing against the storm. Soldiers etched his name on armor. Even enemies began whispering about the Terran ghost and his four-legged partner who had defied death itself. Ryan returned to Earth quietly. No medals, no grand parades, just home. He visited a small green hill near the training grounds. There, under a single oak tree, he placed Rex's tag in the soil. He sat for a while, just listening to the wind. The world was peaceful again for now. But peace never lasted long for humans. A voice came from behind. It was a young recruit, holding a small puppy. "Sir," the recruit said nervously, "they told me you used to fight with a dog?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Not just a dog." He reached out, scratched the puppy under the chin, and the little thing wagged its tail wildly. "He saved more lives than I ever did," Ryan said softly. "And he never once asked for thanks." The recruit frowned. "What was his name?" Ryan looked toward the horizon where the sky turned gold. "Rex," he said. "The galaxy called him a beast. But to me," he paused, his voice catching for the first time, "he was my good boy, far away, on alien worlds where humans were still a mystery. The story of the good boy of Earth became a lesson told to every young cadet and diplomat alike. Never mistake a human's kindness for weakness. Never mistake their companion for an animal. Because if a human calls something family, it will fight until the stars go dark. And somewhere, in every corner of the galaxy, when soldiers raised a glass in silence before battle, one phrase had become universal for the good boy.